A top focus on World DNA. Russia has carried out its fresh attacks in the Ukrainian city of Kharkiv, wounding at least 21. Russian officials had vowed revenge against Ukraine for a series of airstrikes that left at least 20 people dead and dozens wounded in the city of Belgorod.
We emphasize that the Russian armed forces work only on military targets and the infrastructure directly associated with them. We will continue to do so. This crime will not go unpunished.
The latest bout of Russian and Ukrainian strikes and their toll on the civilian population took center stage at the United Nations Security Council meeting.
Attacks on locations in Belgorod city center reportedly resulted in damage to civilian infrastructure, including the regional government office and the Medical College of Belgorod State University. The strikes were reported as among the deadliest cross-border attacks on the Russian Federation since its full-scale invasion of Ukraine in February 2022, launched in the violation of UN Charter and the international law.
Kremlin said that the Russian President Vladimir Putin has been briefed about the Ukrainian strike on Belgorod. The Russian military authorities also reported separate overnight Ukrainian drone attacks in the Bryansk, Oryol, Kursk and Moscow regions of the Russian Federation. Well, Russia's foreign ministry, which has repeatedly denounced Western arms supplies to Ukraine, accused the United States and Britain of inciting the Kiev regime to commit terrorist actions. Remember, the UK had promised to provide Ukraine with hundreds of air defense missiles, while US President Joe Biden is pursuing to overcome Congress's division to approve new aid for Ukraine. Meanwhile, within hours of the attack on Belgorod, Ukrainian authorities said that 2 Russian S-300 missiles hit the center of Kharkiv. This comes as rescuers continued to search through rubble a day after Russian strikes killed at least 39 people. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said that more than 120 settlements had been affected in the strikes.
All throughout the day today, there have been reports on the aftermath of the Russian strikes. In total, more than 120 cities and villages in Ukraine suffered from yesterday's Russian attack alone. 39 people were killed. My condolences to all who lost their loved ones.
City officials said that January 1st will be declared a day of mourning in the capital, Kiev, where at least 17 people were killed. And now for more on the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war, we are now being joined by William Courtney, who is an adjunct senior fellow at the RAND Global think tank. He's joining us live from Washington, D.C. Thank you so much for joining us on WION, Mr. Courtney.
Sure.
Now, Mr. Courtney, Moscow has vowed to retaliate after a Ukraine attack on the city of Belgorod, which has killed 20 people. Now, the Russian president says that the crime will not go unpunished. We've already seen Russian airstrikes on Ukraine. What retaliation can we expect, and how will this escalate the war further as we step into 2024?
Well, it's important to remember that Russia launched over 100 missiles and drones on Ukraine the day before the Ukrainian strike, the largest Russian strike on Ukraine in quite some time. And so Ukraine carried out a response to that, and then the Russians responded with another strike. So what we're probably seeing is that the Kremlin thinks that it can scare the West, can scare the US and scare the European Union, not to keep supporting Ukraine. And so Russia carried out this very large strike, probably hoping that the US and Europe would back away from support. But that's not happening. The US and the European Union are likely to approve these substantial aid packages that are now under consideration. And I think the Ukrainian return strike to Russia's initial strike probably came as a surprise to the Kremlin that Ukraine was still so strong and willing to strike back.
Right, Mr. Courtney, also shed some light on the statement which the Kremlin came out with. It said that it accused the United States and Britain of inciting the Kiev regime to commit terrorist actions.
The United Kingdom, the United States, European Union have been giving strong support to Ukraine ever since Russia launched a full-scale invasion of Ukraine in February 2022. Russia has committed horrendous human rights violations as part of this invasion. So for Russia to be accusing Ukraine or the West with regard to terrorism doesn't really make much sense, considering that Russia launched this war, this full-scale war.
As we head into 2024, let's also talk about the death toll, the mounting death toll of the civilians on both the sides of the war.
The death toll will continue to increase as long as the war continues. The U.S., UK, Europe, Ukraine have all called for Russia to withdraw its troops to end its war against Ukraine, a war that's been widely condemned around the world. But Russia continues to pursue the war. So deaths will continue as long as Russia is carrying out aggression in Ukraine.
Right. Thank you so much, Mr. Courtney, for joining us in WION and sharing your insights with us on this story.
You're welcome.